All right. So keeping with adaptations for one more time now, let's talk about finally talk about by Rurouni Kenshin by the
Okay.
final and the
Okay.
beginning. Ricardo, you told me that you did not see this.
No,
Why didn't you watch this,
drop
Ricardo?
this on drop this on my list. I mean, I listen. You know how I feel about the live action Rurouni Kenshin stuff. Um, I look, it's good, but I can't get into it. Like can't get into this.
All right. Here's the thing, right? For me, right? We have to explain ourselves, right? Uh, for me personally, I never read the Rurouni Kenshin manga, right?
Right.
Not that I
Right.
didn't want to. It's just that there was an anime which, in Trinidad was called Samurai X, right? That was the well, I should say the American title, if you want to call it that, right? And at a period, I would say, what was that period? I think it was the late 90s. So probably not 98. It was 99, about 1999 to like for about a year or two after that, right? This was the shit for me. Many a Saturday mornings was spent watching this show at 10 o'clock on Channel 2.
Right.
Afterwards, they would show again Sunday mornings on Channel 4. I already watched it there. Then they had it as far as Toonami, so I watched it over there. That was three
Yeah.
times. But yeah, this just exploded in a way that I didn't expect now. Because the funny thing is with us with Trinidad and Tobago as far as anime goes, like it's only afterwards you learn about the fandom of Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that. But that was because of people who had cable. I didn't have cable at the time now, so when this thing dropped now, everybody got to see this, right? And it was like just something that we never saw before. Like we never saw a Jedi Geeki anime on local TV, right? And it was just so well done. We can argue for days about the English dub, but I didn't mind the English dub at all, right? But for me, the moment where I was like, all right, this is something special was when that Shishio arc dropped.
Yeah. That was
Tell
cool.
you, when that arc dropped, everything changed.
That
When
was
the
all right.
actual fight between Shishio and Kenshin start, boy, that was a national event. Like
Yeah.
it was so big, Dre. Like afterwards, I used on Saturdays, I used to go for lessons now for CXC lessons afterwards, right? And lunch breaks was spent talking about what Kenshi did, right? Or right, so in English is Kenshi, right? But it's really Kenshin, right? We would talk about stuff that he did, the moves that he do, how he pull it off, advantages, disadvantages of each fighter, all that kind of stuff, Dread. And afterward, like that whole Shishio arc changed my life, Dread. That is, in my opinion, the greatest arc of anime ever. I
Yeah.
say in anime because I
It's,
never read the
it's
manga, but in
it's
anime,
pretty.
best ever.
Yeah, it is pretty good. I am okay. So I was one of those that just kind of I barely missed it, so I didn't get into it
Oh,
when it showed.
okay, okay.
I didn't get into it when it showed in Trinidad. I got into it when it showed on Cartoon Network. That's when I caught up with it.
Okay. Which
And,
I'll confess something though. Now, all right, I do love the fact that Toonami sure do, but
yeah,
they get no points, Dread, for they actually did like a little editing ever so often. They will kind of take out little bits of scenes that they probably felt were too disturbing for
right.
younger viewers, Dread. I didn't like that. Like case in point, there's like a classic moment where Shishio bites Kenshin in the
Right.
neck, Kenshin in the neck
Yeah,
now, and there's a shot of him laughing when
very black.
you're just laughing like a crazy person there. That was completely cut out in the Toonami version, and I was like, why, Jed? Like that's part of what happened, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
still, whatever. It was Summer X. I just loved watching it, you know what I mean? But yeah, go on.
Yeah. So I got into it when it was showing on Cartoon Network. You know, Cartoon Network was catching up. They had it. They instead of once a week, it was once a day. So I more or less caught.
Yes.
I'm caught
Mm.
up with it with that. And I caught up with it pretty quickly. But I didn't get into it with my high school friends. I got into it with my college friends. And yeah,
Nice.
it's a show that I liked. I didn't love, but I liked that because to me, I still thought Dragon Ball Z was cooler, but whatever. Because Dragon Ball Z was more well, out there space bullshit. But yeah,
Right.
it's a great franchise. And then really, what really won me over with the franchise is seeing Trust and Betrayal in Anime City for the first time. That was the first
Yes.
anime
Yes. Right.
And
That was gonna bring up Anime City 2.
that, that,
Never
that
forgot
opened.
that. Anime City 2.
Well, anime. I remember
Or
going
was
to
it the one?
the first one. I remember going to the
Oh right,
first one.
it was one. It was one. It was one.
It
Because
was
I no, I didn't go to two. I was supposed to go to two, but
right,
one they had that, they had Vampire, did the Bloodlust. I never forgot that. But yes,
right.
Trust and Betrayal was like the final film that they show.
That was the first time. That was the first time I also watched. I also watched the aired Justice League for the first time. Like Justice League was showed. It premiered on Cartoon Network, but we didn't have the American Cartoon Network in Trinidad because my dad
Right.
was whole
Yeah, we
contract in
had some weird pseudo
Spanish.
Spanish one. Yeah.
But it was Spanish, it was just the Spanish affiliate. Like we just didn't have the contract, so the shows couldn't get the city shows later. Anyway, with Trust and Betrayal, the first time is when you get to see Pico Sujiro turn that guy into mincemeat. That was pretty badass. That is
Yeah.
when it's selling. Oh right, this is amazing. I forget how amazing the uncensored stuff is. And yeah, that is where the franchise stick with me. It's just such a great, like, well-made material. And I could never get into the live action stuff. I know I like it live action stuff. I don't know. Never get into it. And it's a simple reason. Very simple reason. Shots. Shots and how you tell the story visual. All the visual language with the live action stuff just don't work, right? It never had a single shot with them slowing down the Kenshi doing the slash and the guy in the air floating. You never had just characters just doing teleport moves and this kind of weird shit. I like that bullshit. I like that bullshit in shonen anime. Sorry.
I like it too, but I mean, it's a live action show, Trent. I mean,
Live action.
that's the argument. That's the argument that you'll have, right? Because I totally understand where you're coming from, though. But again, is like how I see it though is to the average viewer who watches this thing and is not expecting Speed Racer. You know what I mean? And they're just watching this samurai flick though. How are they gonna
Right.
feel when they have that shot like when he fought Cho the sword hunter and you have that shot of him on the other side of the screen, you know what I mean? Like with his head coming down. 'Cause I know the
Yeah.
shot. I love that shot, but it's like it's how the average viewer would view it in live action. That's kind of the sacrifice these shows had to make now. But
Yeah.
yeah, go on.
Yeah. So that's how my attitude about the live action. And to be fair, a lot of live action animes suck. Like the Attack on Titan, rubbish. Death Note, in
Anybody
my opinion.
remember Bleach?
The Bleach one was okay.
Yeah,
It was it
we
was
covered Bleach. We
it was still
reviewed Bleach actually.
it was still bad in my opinion because it changed a bunch of stuff I didn't like. But I think it was okay because
Right.
mostly because they got the visual elements and the aesthetic right. Like they got that right. How Ichigo just move and how he just jump around and how they just the action and just the movements of it. That's how it is. I don't know. It's it is what it is. I again I'll probably give these a chance. I know people like them. I'll give these a chance eventually. But I don't know. They need to get the visual language stuff, and then it'll win me over. Like even the Death Note stuff wasn't that bad. Like you follow the mess it was. It still was bad. They could it again. You had to know how to tell your story. It's a framing. It's just framing. Sorry, that's how I feel. It's just a bias, a bad bias.
All right.
But I'll have to get over. But I ain't getting over anytime soon.
Nah, it's an understandable bias, I would say, though, and I guess probably that's just the issue, that anime or I should say text and manga will always face though when you adapted it. Like, how much of the anime or the manga can I show on screen, and how could I get the average viewer to buy into it, right? That's the thing. So jumping into the live action movies quickly, right? I'll confess, like I was excited when you heard, Rurouni Kenshin was coming out, right? That was in 2013, I believe it was. I
Right.
saw it and I enjoyed it for what it was, but what brought down, some points for me though, was that it took like the first two or three major arcs because I'm going off of anime, right? Of the anime itself, and stuffed it into like a 2 hour movie. So they
Right.
had the stuff where he met Sanosuke for the first time, where he met Yahiko and Koru, right? And they had where the big arc was meeting, this the arc involving Megumi, who was working for this drug dealer, and that the opium dealer, whatever it was, and they just stuffed all that into one film, and I was like, I get it. I get, but I felt like y'all shouldn't have stuffed all these actions. Just focus on one story and kept it like that, right?
Right.
The one moreover, however, though, let me just pull up.
Which is a common problem for
Right.
these things. Right? It's a common problem for these live action things. They'll stuff literal multiple arcs in one movie. And they
Yeah,
expect
and to me, this all it just kind of felt like,
stuff.
oh, sorry, it's 2012. It always felt like we just trying to show everybody, hey, a Rurouni Kenshin live action film is possible. Let me show you. All right, cool, but just tell a story or two, not three or four. Like, come on, right? Dial it back. Now, thankfully, no. When Kyoto Inferno and The Legend Ends, both of them came out in 2014, right?
Yeah,
They decided to adapt, the Shishio arc, right? But this was where they won more over Dread because I loved what they did here, right? They didn't take every single thing from the arc, of course, because yeah, that arc spans so much
right,
episodes and so much characters, right? But they
right.
took the right characters, they took the right moments. They didn't have to replicate everything, they didn't have to tell everything. They stuck to the point. They made Shishio great, that he was a great villain in it. I hated the fact that because remember, the cool thing about his sword in particular, his katana lighted up, was because it was human oil now, right? And how he was able to capture it, right? In this one, it was the rage, the fury inside of me that makes the sword light up like that. And I'm like, no, that's stupid, right? Like, come on, right? Like, you don't have to exaggerate it like that. Like, come on, like the original explanation made sense, right? But other than that, though, I loved the visuals. I loved the music. The music, especially Shishio's music, was awesome. I love how tense it all was, and especially like where the first story ended. Dread. It was just such a big cliffhanger, Dread. And then the second one was just so satisfying because it was taking down Shishio, and you saw your favorite characters like Sato and Ayoshi and those guys. Yeah, so they were there, right? And yes, truly, the Sword Hunter was there as well too. So it was a crowd pleaser for me. I enjoyed it, and I would say, out of all these films, this, like, as a fan, as a fan, those two films are still the best out of the series, right? Which leads me to the last two films here, which you got this year. That would be the final and the beginning, right? So what the final does, though, it actually takes, because I didn't even know this, because again, I never read the manga, right? This actually takes the last story arc, I believe it was, right? Which was never adapted to anime because the show had canceled now, right after, I forgot what was the arc they had. I think it was, gosh, I can't remember what it is. Though. I can't remember what it is. Like, I know after Shishio there was the Child of God, and then there was these some sort of
German, the
feng
German.
shui kind of people.
Oh,
And
it was the German Knights. I forget the story. I really forget the details of the Kenshin world.
I try to
So,
remember if the Child of God stuff was the German Knight stuff. I think
no, no,
so. I think so.
no,
Or
no.
maybe it's something different.
Child of God is its own thing. Child of God is one story, and then the German
Right,
Knights
and then
are
the German Knights, and then there was something else with some people. Oh gosh, it was some
I don't know if
Taoist
that
priests or some drama. I can't remember.
I can't remember that, but I just remember the German Knights be the last thing I watched. But I think that was a filler. I can't remember. Really don't know the details of the Kenshin thing. So from what I understand, it had animated. It had manga arcs that was never animated. So it's like, all right, that's what
Right,
from what.
right, right. Yeah, and this one this one, if I'm not mistaken, is one that was never put to screen basically, right, until now. And what it how it bounced off very well with the beginning. So, well, I guess I might as well just start with the beginning, right? Because it's the beginning, right? So the beginning is pretty much a retelling of Trust and Betrayal. It's the same story. It's Kenshin, just being this assassin and whatnot, trying to bring down the just bring down the shogun and just these people who involved with the shogunate and all that kind of stuff. And through the process, during this assassination attempt, sorry, not even assassination attempt, during this one night, he's going after this official. He kills the official, but we learn later on that he was supposed to be the husband, basically, of this girl that he meets, right? That he eventually meets, called Tomoe, right?
Yeah,
So one thing leads to the next, and they meet, and through some circumstances, they kind of have to live together because the shogun is going after these guys now. So yeah, they're there together and they fall in love, but she knows that this guy killed my husband. So she kind of gets roped into a situation where these guys who are after the assassins now, targeting him now. So it's just this process of them trying to take him down, and I wouldn't really spoil how it ends, right? But yeah, pretty much it's exactly how Trust and Betrayal plays out, right? And this is where you learn how he got the X scar in the first place, right? Well, the
Right.
Right.
two scars that will make the X, right? So that's
Yeah.
it. That's really
Very
what
much. Yeah.
the beginning is, right?
Right. Yeah.
I remember that from the Trust and Betray anime. Yeah.
Right. The
Yeah.
final, however, though, is where Tomoe's, if I get the name wrong, forgive me, right? Or Tomoe or whatever it is, right? Her younger brother actually shows up now seeking revenge on Kenshin for what he did.
Right. Yeah.
And we learned his backstory. He eventually got involved with the Shanghai mob, and he's a big man on campus basically. So yeah, he just shows up as like this flat out terrorist, right? Like just doing all these random attacks on Tokyo, just like explode, firing cannons into buildings and just causing terror and fear. And the whole idea is just to bring, in usual, you know, big body going against the hero, and it's some kind of personal vendetta now. So of course is all right, I just going to make you suffer, Dread. I'm just going to see you lose everything, Dread. And in a way it's like that though, but it's just like, again, this Kenshin being the hero wanted to save people, but just kind of seeing that kind of fall apart now. And then it gets to the point where even Kaoru, who of course, they're in love, right? They don't see it, but they love, right?
Correct.
She gets captured and all that kind of stuff, and just different people get killed or get attacked, and it's just how it's affecting everyone. And yeah, I'll just stop there. So how I said earlier, how as a fan I still enjoy Kyoto Inferno and The Legend Ends. I would just say that just as someone who has appreciated what these films were able to do, because I'll tell you one time, it's not easy. It's clearly not easy. We could pull up examples in terms of like adapting manga and anime, right? Especially American versions of it, right? I mean, case in point, look at Ghost in Shell. A show that I still defend, it, but I just do like the idea of the show stopping to explain, oh, this is why this character looks Caucasian. I hated that. And that just pissed a lot of people off, right? But yeah, this one for me, like I would just say the series as a whole is probably one of, if not the only one of the rare moments of this, like a series, like a film series, that went above and beyond the Call of Duty to stay true to its source material, Dread. And not in a gimmicky, other please the fans kind of way, but more like, no, we know how great of a story this is, Dread, so we just gotta make sure that we tell it the best way we can, Dread. And I felt that with both the final and the beginning, Dread. I thought that these were both solid ways to end off this series. Because yeah, these are the last two films. And I'll go out of my way to say this too, quite controversial here. These are kind of two of the best films I've seen for the year thus far, man. Like,
Okay.
no lie, right?
Nah.
But this is coming from somebody who has enjoyed the series, you know what I mean? Even though it had a rocky start with the first film, but I have grown to appreciate this series since, they dropped the Shishio act though. And I felt here though, like it's not as fan pleasing as you'd expect it to be though. But as far as like this emotional send off to the series, yeah, it totally worked though. I loved how they decided to release it as both the final and the beginning, because you got the last film basically, right, the final first, and then literally a couple days before we bet up here online, you got the beginning. So technically we got the prequel right afterwards though. And I love how they just complement each other. The prequel in particular is very somber. It's less action packed, right? But pretty much if you're familiar with Trust and Betrayal, it's the same story. And I love the fact that, like, for somebody like me who haven't seen Trust and Betrayal in ages, I still was able to watch this and be like, oh yeah, I remember this, I remember that, I remember this scene, I remember that, I remember this character, cool, cool, cool. But even I would imagine, as a non-fan, as somebody who never watched the anime or read the manga, you could still go into this too and just understand what's going on, get the story. I love the character building moments. I love how they just kind of establish who these characters are, why they're fighting in this war, what they believe in, and all that kind of stuff. 'Cause that's very much been this team, this running team throughout. I would say, yeah, in the whole franchise period, right? Just this idea of, this is what we believe in, this is why we're fighting, this is what we're fighting for. if you get in my way, I will take you down, and this is why. That's really what this Rurouni Kenshin is about, and I love how they just express it here, right? Visually, it looks just amazing, just top notch. Direction and cinematography across the board, though, just some beautiful, just gorgeous visuals, though. You don't skip out on the violence though, because yes, blood is shed though. The fights themselves are rather brutal though, but they're fun to watch in particular, especially when it's like just Kenshin doing his thing though. And yes, it's not him doing the anime stuff. Like what he tends to do in these shows, I'll kind of make the joke. This man is just run really fast, like the guy who plays him. He just has this thing of just always running at top speed. Though, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Takeri Sato, that's the guy who plays
I,
Kenshin.
I get what they're trying to go forward as, but like it still need to be superhuman speed. Sorry, but whatever.
I know, and all right. As far as the fights go, it's wire work though, but it's not
Right,
all entirely wire work. Like there, like in particular in the final, right, with him fighting off against what is the guy's name though? I'm gonna find it quickly, right? Ensho, sorry, no, Inishi, that's his name, Inishi, right? Like, there's a moment though, like a slight little long take though, where you see these guys like just busting moves though, and it's all in one take. Shut it. So like, it's overly reliant on wires and stuff like that, even though they do that kind of stuff though. But I just love the fact that yeah, these guys like literally did a little training and they're doing it, they're showing that they could fight now. You know what I mean? I love that, right? It wasn't like they had to skimp to work around it with like cheap camera angles and stuff like that. I love that. I really love that. I love the care that they put into these fight scenes. And yes, the over the top and people getting hit, getting smacked down literally with Kenshin, sword and all kind of stuff. But it just looks so awesome, right? As you would expect with with Japanese films, though, yes, it is overly dramatic and overly emotional, right? Characters exaggerate themselves in emotional ways, but it's not too over the top though. It happens when it needs to happen, right? Which already does, especially with the Inishi character, because yeah, he comes off tough and all that, but ever so often you'll see him kind of crying and screaming and going you know what I mean? But it works in terms of how unstable this character is, right? I really dug that. But yeah, the final was really satisfying though, because this is me going in blind, not knowing about this arc at all. But I felt like it ended it on such a high note and it really tied back to what the whole point of like like even for the first film I talk about Rudy Kitchen itself, right? Him trying to move on from his past, right? But is this blood soaked past that he has to move on past? Trying to wonder if he could actually like get through it in this new time, you know what I mean? But you always have all these characters who just want to bring the Batosai slasher character out of it, the persona out of him, right? That's always been the main theme of this show, right? Of the series, right? It comes through across here in these movies. Um, but I also love though how the beginning complements all that though by really showing how much of a cold-blooded killer this guy was and how yeah reluctantly and eventually he was able to change because of yeah him falling in love with his dealer, right? And
yeah,
then how the tragic conclusion to that, I'm not gonna say what it is, and how it all led to where he is, up where the story really begins. So I really dug that. So I would say if you're familiar with Trust and Betrayal, if you know it though, yes, it's pretty much that. But I love the care that they put into adapting it and making it its own thing, right? So yes, it's the same beats and all that kind of stuff though, but let's see it in live action. The care that they put into making it so faithful to the source material. Yeah, I have nothing but praise for that though. As far as the final, I have to I I will assume that that was exactly or mostly how that manga played out, that arc played out, right? So, but even still, though, I did really enjoy it as well. I would say as far as gripes for the final goes, again, not sure if this was how it was in the manga, right? But certain characters not gonna say who return. They say why they return though, but you're still kind of there like, all right, maybe they did because the fan favorites, I guess. But for me, I was just kind of worried if they needed to be there at all, right? They give them things to do, but still, it's like, but still, like they need to be in the story. You know what I mean? That's as far as gripes go with me with the final, right? As far as the beginning goes, gripe is pacing, because yeah, this is a lot slower, a lot more somber, right? A little bit more, you know, deeper, right, than the first one, which was just,
Right,
just
right,
closing things off on a high note, right? So yes, I do like the time and care put into flesh out the characters, but at times the pacing could feel a little off, just a little slow, you know what I mean? But I understand given the nature of the story, right? But yeah, honestly, I dug the hell out of both of these, though I love these. These were a great. These were just two films just end of the series, in just such a high note that I really, really love them. As a fan, I still prefer Kyoto Inferno and The Legend Ends because it just took my favorite arc, of all time. I just put it to screen, right? Put it to screen, right? So I still will put that one higher over these two. But in terms of these two concluding the series on such a high note, though, yeah, I have nothing but praise for them, though. So, rated wise, I'm going to give this a very light 4.5 out of 5, man. I see this showing up as, I could see this as a double feature, showing up on my top 10 list. That's how much I really praise those films. But again, my admiration and praise for this comes from the fact that I am a huge fan of the anime, right? Not so much the manga, 'cause I never read the manga, right? So
right.
yeah, so me loving this is because of that. But at times, I would admit while I was watching this, I said to myself, well, would a non-fan appreciate this? Or somebody who jump into this fresh? I would say yes, because yeah, these films work as just great modern Jedi Geiki films, right? Because you don't really see films like that every day, right? And they were big like in the 50s and 60s, and with Akira Kurosawa and guys like that, right? But you don't see films like that, especially in these times, you know what I mean? But just see that there's still life that could be pumped into this genre. I was like, yeah, 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 yeah. This have a future, man. And I'm glad that the people behind the scenes, and yeah, by the way, Warner Brothers, behind the scenes as well too. So the idea was like, what, let me actually like breathe new life into this genre. You know what I mean? Because I'm a fan of Jedi Geek. I love that genre, and like I say, you don't see that every day. So I'm glad that they say, let me just take Rurouni Kenshin and do a little series out of it now. You know what I mean? And last thing I'll say though, like I say, just right off the bat, this is like arguably the best attempt though at taking manga and turning it into live action. And it's from Japan as well too, so you don't
Right.
have any American interference. Yes, it's a Warner Brothers release, but they just distribute the film, right? They just leave everything else to the cast and crew to do their thing, right? So no American changes, because American audiences or whatnot, right? So I love the fact that they did that. And yeah, I just honestly can't think of any other series or anthology, based off of anime that's in live action that was able to be this consistent. Like I just can't think of any, Dread. So um I do hope that going forward with these upcoming anime adaptations, because yeah, apparently Cowboy Bebop is going to be a thing, right?
Right.
Another favorite anime of mine is going to be a series
Yeah,
on Netflix, right?
yeah,
Right?
no, it's how you do it. So no, but again, it's how you do it with the material. It's what it is, what kind of story beats your take, and how it works. And look, like okay, take for example the American Death Note, right? It's kind of a mess, pretty bad. But
Kind
it
of, it is a mess,
yeah,
but
but
but not an intentional mess.
no, but
Like you know,
as I said, I don't know how to do it because the problem is that if it was a mini series, I thought it would have been okay. Like if they got a chance to tell a full story, like let's say it was like 8 episodes instead of like this 2 hour movie nonsense. You
no,
know,
one and a
yeah,
half, Jed. If I'm not mistaken, this was one and a
whatever,
half. Yeah.
whatever. But you get my point now. The whole thing is that you had to flesh it out properly. The main mistake is that they just don't get what you have to do to flesh it out, make it work. If you're doing the hour movie thing or the 2 hour movie thing, or whatever it is, just do one arc or one mini arc. Like in the case of like Bleach, Bleach mistake was that they should have just tell just the story about how the mother died. That was a good mini arc in the anime, right? In the
Agreed.
core,
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, if they just tell that story of him versus Grand Fisher, it would have been fine. But no, they decided to tell the whole arc. It's like, well, it had problems. And then they changed the story in kind of weird ways. And I still enjoyed it for it was, but it was kind of clumsy. Just tell a mini arc. It's not hard, right? Have it be like a kind of pseudo OVA. You're good. That's why it'll work. But no, clumsy. It don't work. they had to do all these weird changes now. Moving on.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway,
So
I glad you enjoyed it. I'm sure people, a lot of people enjoyed this, and for it is. Uh, but
yeah, but I want to say if it's not for you, it's not for you. But just if you do plan to like probably go back into it or like try it out, just remember it's an adaptation, right? It's not gonna entirely be like the way it was, and I don't expect it to be. But at least if you're faithful enough to this to the source material, yeah, and you do it justice. That's the important part. You do it justice, which I felt this one did. Yeah, I am definitely fine with that. So of course, like in retrospect, yes, especially with the Shishio arc, we could have gotten the over the top shots and whatnot that we love and are burnt into our subconsciousness. Yes, I mean they are. But I'll still make the argument that, it's for, a different audience. So are they going to understand when you have the character position like this in the same frame and these kind of things? It's those kind of things. It's those kind of calls that you had to make and you had to kind of sacrifice because it had to look like, like your average show in a sense, you know what I mean? But still, it's based off of something that's so extraordinary, right? But it's, whatever, right? But yeah, I would say still, I mean, give this a look though. If it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not. But if you're a fan though, you will thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy this. And I imagine, you still have some people that will just be like, but the anime did this better and this thing. Again, I understand, but it's an adaptation. You gotta treat it as is, right? So for me at the moment though, this is like the best example of how to do proper live action anime adaptation. Again, I don't know what we're gonna get with Cowboy Bebop. I am not excited for it at all, and I say this as a fan of Cowboy Bebop. I really, really don't know what to expect for it, right? But I just hope that going forward, do other filmmakers look to this series here, this Rurouni Kenshin series, and be like, okay, this is how you do it. This is how you do it.
Right.